Hey everyone, let's do a market update. I'll go over some charts, some recent position changes. We're gonna cover runes. And yeah, but let's start with Bitcoin. As usual, we have quite an interesting, I believe, chart right here. Because it's been quite tricky to trade, obviously, in the last 6 months. We've discussed this 1,000 times. Now it looks like we're gonna have a very green close on October, and although everybody was expecting an Uptober, which basically everybody expected to just move and break out of this entire range, but we still went up. You know, it's just 8%, 9% currently. Of course, this could change in the next few days, but it seems like we're gonna have a nice green candle on the monthly. But it definitely doesn't feel like this. Definitely, at least in my opinion, my circles and what I see, it feels a lot like we are in a very strange situation. Although the chart doesn't like give us clear bearish signals. And let me show you what I mean. On the weekly, we had last week a really nice retest of this area around 65k, and honestly. For my buys that I have around 61k here on Bitcoin, I would say that I could move currently my invalidation somewhere around here. I would take this as a higher low here. And if we start breaking below 64, 65, I think the probability of retesting 60k area is much higher. It would make sense to just, take my profit, whatever it's left of it, if we start closing below this. And if we see signs of weakness, but what I mean by signs of weakness, if we jump to the daily, right now it does look quite strong. So generally speaking, this entire area could be considered as resistance. This is a pivot high here that we had, and it's very close to 70k. This entire area pretty much is a big block of resistance for Bitcoin, and price is confirming it. We're chopping around this area, and basically what is happening right now is that we had a pullback, first test of this level right here. We got a pullback. Now we have this higher low here, and potentially everybody is like ready for a breakout here, and we rip higher, like a new all-time high scenario, and so on and so on. However, we could very easily fake out here. And I think this is the most bearish scenario currently that I could see. We could fake out here, maybe we close the daily, or maybe we run a bit higher, like we do something like this. So we have this candle go to here, trap a lot of longs, taking the breakout, and maybe we retrace it back and close with a body candle somewhere where we are, or somewhere in this area. I could see this scenario playing as well, and that's what I would be looking for in the next hours, days, if this will play out. Because if this happens, I could as well be closing most of my exposure, at least temporarily. Because what would happen is, let's say we close some around 68k here. We're very close to making a new high here, and if we start breaking out and closing, I'm risking about 2% here, so 2% of upside if I decide to close everything. But then if we break down, I'll be gaining more than 4% to the next level, at least to the first level of 65k. So I think it could make sense, and as I've mentioned last week, a lot of the alts are trading still very, very scared. Although, like you can see, Bitcoin is in perfect condition, like long term, and like every time frame, like the weekly, the monthly, they look very good. The daily as well. However, alts have been trading quite poorly against Bitcoin, and you can see just here on the quick watch list on the right, you can see like Bitcoin is green on the day, but alts have been obliterated today. There is some green, of course, but most it's a sea of red for altcoins, and that's kind of normal. If we have a bull cycle that starts somewhere around here, I would say we need to have another BTCD push. That's the ideal scenario, right? It doesn't mean it's going to happen, but we got another push here on BTCD, and then I'll start to outperform drastically. So we have something like this. So maybe another push, and then this drops drastically if we get a bull run. However, if we get a dip here and it's a massive, again we're gonna see BTCD skyrocketing. But that's not because Bitcoin is going up, but because alts will be crashing that much more than Bitcoin. That's the bearish side of the scenario that I'm currently looking at, and I'm that's why I'm being cautious here. That's why I reduced a little bit of risk here. I closed a few trades. I sold my track, which pretty much broke down. We'll see how this goes. This might be the bottom because there's some news coming. Maybe they launched the swaps early this week or next week. In a few days they got an announcement that they're going to be introducing the beta version of this, so this could very easily close back in the range and rip. I sold my tap airdrop and everything. I do have tap exposure still, but I wanted to gain some more cash for my portfolio in case the bearish scenario plays out. I closed out Beam. For now seems to be the good move. We pretty much faked out again. This market hasn't been kind to breakout traders, and you can see a breakout here like immediately the next day we close below. We retest this area. You can see it on the 4-hour chart here. We retest this, now turn resistance, and now it's just starting to sell off. So I decided to close. I made some money on this trade, but nothing too huge. Arkham, same thing pretty much. This happened on the Iran attack news from the weekend, if I remember correctly. And Bitcoin pretty much didn't move that much, but alts did stuff like this. And I have all my other trades still going. Some of them are underwater, some of them are in profit. I'm just watching key levels. I don't want to be too trigger happy. So I don't want to be entering new trades here because of the situation I just explained with Bitcoin. But I also don't want to be closing most of my trades because I believe I got good entries. I'm risking here. I'm willing to risk losing some money even on overall, like if the market turns red in the next week or so. But I think my entries in general are good, and the invalidation spots on most of them are good. Like for example, Jupiter is running very well for my entry, and very nice and clean here. Flip this level into support now, and again, if we start breaking down, and if this is the fake out and we start making lower highs here, I think nicely invalidation comes up here at 90 cents or so if we start closing out. Same with ZK, clean level here to trade around. Zero is the one that I should have probably closed around here. I didn't exactly follow my plan, but this is turning into a nemesis for me, this layer 0 thing. But now it's at another key level. We ran the lows here, so I want to see if we're going to see some strength here. If not, I'm going to close it. Prime as well, probably I need to close it, but again, I'm waiting to see what's going to happen a bit more with Bitcoin, because we retested this resistance level right here, and currently we are below it. So pretty much this is my invalidation here. And we're currently below it, so technically you could close the trade here. I'm just willing to be a little bit more patient. When it comes to Ethereum, I don't know what to say about this chart. People have been tired. I've personally been a big Ethereum fan, and the L2 narratives and so on. I thought we're gonna have a good Ethereum run. It hasn't been so. It's been massively underperforming Bitcoin. And currently, from all the farming I've done on Scroll and previously on other L2s, now I'm sitting on a bunch of ETH that I'm wondering what to do. One of the options is maybe to flip it to Sol, just because Sol, it's been looking good. And actually, even here, again, you can see perfectly, trade stream was like Jupiter. So we broke out, we retested. Now this level turns into a nice invalidation around 160, and potentially setting up for a secondary breakout. And if we open the Sol ETH chart, here you go. Yeah, it's been a thing of beauty for the people that are in Sol and not in Ethereum. And it's been painful to watch because this is a massive breakout and it just keeps accelerating, honestly. So maybe ETH will catch a bit at some point. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's a bit difficult to to make a clear call right now. The more clear calls for me are in Ordinals and more specifically in runes. Let me just quickly cover tap because, as I mentioned, there might be a catalyst. And I bought some DMT net. I'm still underwater and I didn't buy that much, but I bought somewhere around this area if I remember correctly. Now we're about 2x from that entry. But the story here is that we found a bottom. We are starting to see signs of strength above the range. So if this keeps, chugging along here and potentially we get a catalyst from the team and they actually start delivering something that people, are expecting or anything close to good, could send this token flying. And this could fly. It's a very low valuation right now. I don't remember what it is, but it's in the few millions, if I remember correctly. And this could really fly because it's one of the highest volume tokens on Ordinals wallet currently. But if there are other places to trade it, I think this could skyrocket, and the chart looks good. It just looks, now it looks good. I mean, it used to look terrible. And I also do have quite a bit of GIP, and they've been teasing also some stuff about GIP. I cannot tell you to buy GIP specifically because it's very like illiquid, this thing. And I know that I'm one of the holders that have quite a bit of the supply, but also there are other holders out there that hold quite a bit of the supply. So, it's a riskier trade, but this is, again, extremely low market cap, and it's pretty much the meme coin of tap. And if this starts running, it will start running hard. That's my expectation. So yeah, just be aware of these like pros and cons on the tap system. And when it comes to runes, I'm watching a few very interesting plays. I did start scaling into pups today. My entry was around 180, 182. I didn't alert it because it's like starting to run right now, and I don't want to be like, hey guys, I bought and then I alerted. But just letting you know, full transparency, that I've started scaling in. I don't think it's a terrible entry even here. Just chart wise, let me show you what I see on the chart, and then we'll talk about the narrative as well. But pretty much clean, very clean breakout here of accumulation. First sign of strength, push to the upside. Now a rounded retest of this area right here around 140, 150. Nice little wick here. If you get a little bit more in detail. And then on the daily, we're starting to see the uptrend coming again. So even right here, I would argue it's not a terrible entry. The risk to reward for a rune, not this. Let's say you buy at 200, it's 33%. So for a rune with a potential, like I believe Pups is, this is looking juicy. And my thinking was, okay, a lot of runes had a pump. The space in general had quite a bit of volume coming in. Still, relatively low, as we talked in the last video, but it's expected to have this type of cool off. It's actually great to have this cool off, in my opinion, because it makes the whole price action in the entire market more sustainable. So all we need now is for Bitcoin not to rug us. And I believe all of these tokens that we're gonna, quickly go over can do very, very well. And it's very clear after the first push and now the correction, where you should pay attention, because there are thousands of fucking runes, and I'm telling you, it's been pissing me off because I generally don't have that much time to be in the trenches and just do this every single day and mint everything and so on. And there's been so many plays, but now it's like the volume and the things we're going to discuss, you can clearly see where you can place high probability bets. And for me, one of them is runes. And I know pups. And I know that in the background, they're working quite a bit. It's related to puppets as well. And I do have exposure to puppets. And I was, considering buying another puppet. But then I thought, pups is also a good bet and kind of a diversification between, the JPEGs and the token. And in general, like from the past few weeks, I've seen that tokens tend to run more than JPEGs. Maybe the environment will shift and JPEGs will start running more, but in general, I've seen tokens do much better And the recent example was Based Angels. So it's not here on the volume, but this thing did like 6-7x in a span of a few days, and the collection did like 4 or 5x, and it took much longer. So yeah, these are definitely a little bit more spiky, and you can more easily like scale in and scale out, in my opinion, in rules. Yeah, so obviously Dog to the Moon, similar chart actually to Pups, and actually again at a very nice reload zone. And you can see this very clean structure, higher highs, higher lows. So what I would look if this potentially is a bull flag. So we're at an area where you don't need to like rush into a position, but I do think it's a good entry at this stage if you don't have a position at all. So anything below here, like 20-25% risk, I think it changes the structure of the chart. But then if we start breaking out, if you need a little bit more confirmation, even if you buy it a little bit higher, I would say, again, a good positioning for another leg higher potentially. Because if this thing gets listed, we all know what's going to happen. We have the example of already. But the chart still looks good. So, and you can see it hasn't dipped as much as the others. You know, it's probably because it's more liquid and, you know, it's the biggest token and most people know it. But that's good. That's what we want to see. And the same thing goes pretty much for the top 4 or 5 tokens here. Because even if you go on the 7-day volume, you'll see pretty much the same players, almost. You know, but there are some that come and go, like Uzi, Guzmeo, or whatever. But the main players, you know, if you go to the 7-day volume, you pretty much you can see them. And one of them is Gizmo. This is a new one, obviously, and it really nicely retested the 20 sats level, very clean. So I would say this is a great risk to reward trade as well. It's a little bit more expensive. This one, it's already at 15 million, and it's again related to Pups play. But I would say here at almost 20 sats, and it's keeping this level, very nice and clean price action. So I'm also gonna be probably adding a bit more if this thing dips a bit more. Maybe we'll see. I do have an exposure, not enough, but I do have some. So I will be looking maybe to add some more to this. I mentioned Pups, I already got into a position, but I'm looking to add more. $1 billion cat also very strong. So let me show this. This is a much smaller token, but it's one of the favorites, and from the absolute top here, it's down just 31%. Like if we compare this to Gizmo, again, this is much smaller, but you know, this one's down 50%. And if we compare this to, let's say, Pups, from the absolute top, this thing is down 47%, 48%. So you can see the winners, in my opinion, long term in these charts. Now that we have a little bit more price history and some of them have broken out and so on. So these, I believe, will do extremely well. Something like RSEC is very annoying. These guys are like pretty much rugging the space, but they're still, like, chart-wise, I think people still have hope. And in general, if runes start running, I think these will do well. Maybe we'll underperform some other runes, like, for example, billion dollar cat. But still, you know, the chart looks decent. And if you don't have exposure, I wouldn't recommend buying this one. But if you really want RSEC, it's not at a bad level right now. So yeah, pretty much the market has been cooling off, and that's good to see. A few other mentions, Puka. This minted out at a high valuation, but again, it's been just constant on the volume, and on the lower time frames we had the correction. So from the top, 67%, and to current price probably around 50%. Yeah, 50%. And you can see here, it's nicely on. This is on the 1 hour chart, keep in mind. Nicely retested this level, and now it's starting to gain a little bit more traction. And this is looking all right because it's at 5 million market cap. And although this is an OMB related token, and you know, probably you never know what's going to happen with OMBs because they might launch another thing or not. But the community is strong, and this is a 3-time lower market cap than Pups. No, not Pups, sorry, but Gizmo. and they launched pretty much as the same narrative and almost at the same time. So I don't know if this can catch up, but definitely the volume profile at 100K volume just today is one to be considered. And I don't have exposure to Puka. Cannot just buy them all, I guess. But yeah, I've been also considering like probably scaling down on the amount of runes I have and concentrating on a few that I just talked about. I still haven't done this. I do have a quota position that's still open underwater. I bought around 3.5, somewhere around here. I think it was on this day on the week, and it started pumping right away. Was up like 50% and then just crashed and never got the momentum back. But this again, it's keeping a good level. It hasn't broken down, but it's from the three that are like the collection related, like this is related to notebooks. I think this one is the weakest, but let's see how it plays out. One more is Cypher. This is considered the first AI rune, and it minted out quite high valuation again. I think it was about 2 or 3 mil, but it hasn't been doing that terrible. I have a tiny bit of a position. But you can see it's been grinding downwards. It's not even an accumulation. It's more like a slow bleed. So if this starts reversing, currently at this market cap below 1 mil, it could be interesting. And again, it's keeping some volume in the past few months. So this will be interesting. What else? Some of the older ones, Base Internet Panda. I wanted to show you this one as well because this had a massive run up, as you can see, and then obviously even bigger crash. So 51, actually not that terrible, 53% from the highs. So again, if this reaccumulates higher, something like this could be a nice play. I still see people talking about it. I read the summaries and I still think this has a place to be one of the top performers, also because it's a relatively low market cap to most of the big runes. And it's an interesting play. I don't have any. I'm just saying. I do have Waddle because I believe it's the similar type of play with a little bit more fundamentals, if I if I can say that. But Waddle had a push. We were buying around 6 sats, if I remember correctly, my last buys. And now you can see again we're retesting this area of the breakout, which could be a nice recharge zone for it and to continue for a leg higher. And even if we zoom out, this at 5 or 6 million right now market cap, this could turn out into a massive accumulation range. But this is just hoping here, right? But in general, if the space really gains traction, some of these runes will have massive gains. And that's why I'm saying like this is a little bit clearer read for me compared to like the altcoin market. And I'll be definitely keeping an eye on some of those plays for those retracements to add a little bit more exposure. Because in general, it's definitely something to watch. Again, you gotta be careful because something like Ribbit, this could reverse again, but Ribbit was a favorite, and look at the run it had. But compared to all the other charts we discussed, this is down 92%, right? And it's at 300K market cap. Yes, if you like risk and if you like taking a stab at this, sure, I would understand it. But like at these levels right here, I think the safer bet, probably you could get more risk, more reward here. But again, you're having more risk because also the volume is dying on this one. It pretty much died, less than $300 today. So it's from the top performer, it became just so. Yeah, there are many of those runes that come and go. Many. We don't have the whole week to even go through over them, but just these simple rules I think will serve you well. Keep to the 1 day or 7 day volume, and place your bets there, or at least the bigger bets, because I also have smaller bets on all kinds of stuff, but the bigger bets I keep on the higher volume profile. Cats and the Sats is also starting to do well, to perform. Again, you can see very clean pattern, breakout of accumulation and retest here, and actually gaining some traction. And it's just 2 million market cap. So this is another interesting play chart wise that I'm starting to like, but you know, it had just a massive dip, and it might do well, but it might also underperform because some people bought here. Don't forget this. And these people will be excited to get it to break even and sell and dump on you. But yeah, that's all. And obviously, if you have any questions, you know how to find me.